Hello, my name is Sonia and we're going to learn another ribbing technique. So here I have a little sample right here. As you can see, it's nice and stretchy. It looks a little bit like knitted ribbing. And I like this technique because it does mimic that a little bit. Sometimes crocheted ribbing can be a little bit stiffer, and as you know, knitted ribbing tends to be a lot stretchier and a little more flexible, a little more forgiving. So this crochet technique is definitely a little bit stretchier here. So we are going to get started. So I'm going to use a G hook today, and you can certainly use whatever size hook or yarn that you want. If you're just learning and doing a practice swatch, I do recommend maybe using a little bit of a larger hook. Not too large, but you know, G, H, or I, and worsted weight. So we're going to work a row of 6 chains, 5 and 6. So this ribbing is worked in rows, but it can easily be incorporated into the round. And you can determine how wide you want your ribbing. So that's why I like this technique. So I've made a row of 6 chains, but if you wanted a wider ribbing, you can certainly make more chains. So however long your chain is about how wide your ribbing is going to be. And we are going to work in the back of the chain. So you're going to turn, and we're going to work a row of single crochet in the back here. So the back bump, just insert your hook and work a regular single crochet all the way across. So we will have 5 single crochet. Alrighty, so we have 5 single crochet. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn. We're going to work in these back loops of our single crochet and work a row of slip stitch. So if you've never used slip stitch other than working in the round and joining your round, so you'll be learning something a little bit new today. And slip stitch is a great little stitch all by itself. Some people will only crochet and slip stitch only. You can make a lot of neat fabrics with it. So you're just going to work 1 slip stitch in the back loops only for row 2. And a nice little trick I have, we're going to work in back loops from here on out. It can be a little tricky with slip stitch as to where to insert your hook for the next row. So I like to use a stitch marker. I just use a scrap piece of yarn. And I will insert it in my front loop before I turn, because I'm going to work in back loops for my next row. So my front loop is going to turn into my back loop. I just slide that guy right in there. And that marks, pull it where I need to put my hook for the next row. So we're going to chain 1, we're going to turn. So see, now that's turned into my back loop. So that loop that's pulled is where I need to put my hook. And we're going to work a slip stitch. So just watch your tension. And when working with slip stitch, it's easier to turn your work towards you. Generally when we crochet, we kind of have our work more flat. But when you're slip stitching, it's easier because then you can really see the stitches, how it looks like a row of chains. And you can easily see that this is my back loop and I need to work in that guy. And you're going to continue slip stitching across. So this is row 3. And we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now I'm not going to keep using a stitch marker because I've done this a lot, so I pretty much know where to put my hook. So I've chained 1, I've turned, and now I'm going to slip stitch again for row 4. All the way across. And it can be easy to miss the last stitch, so you just want to make careful. So that's why counting can be important, knowing how to read your work. So you make sure you have the right amount, because you don't want your ribbing to kind of get all like thin, fat, because you've missed a stitch. Alright, so we're going to chain 1 and turn, keep working in back loops in row 5. So 1, 2, see, it can be hard to keep track of rows, but our single crochet, this row here is going to be our right side. So all odd rows is the right side. And the stitch pattern is 1 row of single crochet, 3 rows of slip stitch. 1 row single crochet, 3 rows slip stitch. So I've worked a pattern repeat of single crochet, 3 slip stitch, single crochet, 3 slip stitch, single crochet, 3 slip stitch. So let's say we want to turn this into the round. So what you'll do is you're going to work another single crochet, because that's what you would come next. Now you could certainly sew it, but a lot of people don't like sewing. I can sew fairly well, but I don't love it. So I try to avoid it if I can. Alright, so I've worked 1 row of single crochet. Now I'm going to turn and work 2 rows of slip stitch, because that is keeping with our stitch pattern. It is 3 rows, but you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. So there's 1, 2 rows. Okay, so here we have our single crochet, 2 rows. So to complete the stitch pattern, we would need to do another row of slip stitch. So but we want to turn this into the round, so it would make like a little, maybe a doll clothing cuff or a baby cuff or something like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1, you're going to turn, you're going to bring up the bottom row. So this is row 1 that we worked, and see, we worked in the back bump of the chain, so it creates its own little row of chains. You're going to insert your hook into the front loop of that chain, and you're going to insert your hook into the back loop of the row you just finished, and you'll work a slip stitch. And you're going to do that all the way across. So front loop for row 1, back loop for the row you just completed. So that is why you work in the back of the chain. And then it creates an almost invisible seam. When you sew it, it pretty much creates a completely invisible seam. So if you're overly fussy, then, feel free to sew. This is the next best thing. I can barely tell. So now we've joined it. So now you can see it does create a pretty invisible seam there when you compare it to the rest. And now you're ready to work in rounds. So if you wanted to build on this cuff, you could chain 1. Let's say we'll do a single crochet. You'd be working in the ends of the rows. Now if you wanted to use another color, what I suggest is working 1 round of single crochet, because your single crochet stitches will be nice and neat and uniform. If you're just inserting a different color, it won't look as neat and tidy. And then I like to work in see, it looks like a V stitch here, like an upside down one, and I like to insert my hook right in the middle of that guy, and that helps to just create a nice, neat, and tidy effect there. So you would work as many, you can certainly work in the middle here, work a single crochet, and work as many single crochet if you needed for your stitch pattern for the whatever you're making. And then you would just go all the way around, and then if you wanted to use another color, then I would start the next row in another color, and then your stitches will look nice and neat. So you can see this is a different ribbing, but I made this ribbing in rows, and then I worked in rounds. So you can see here, I worked my row, then I worked a row of single crochet in this pink color, and then the body of the hat. So I used a different color here, and see how nice and neat that looks. If I just jumped in with this color here, it might not look as nice and neat and uniform, and I like uniformity when I'm making stuff, and I like it to look crisp and nice. So that's just a little thing that I have. I mean, if you don't have to do that, but that's just what I like to do. So that is another ribbing technique. Thank you so much for watching.